Adam Silver's name wasn't the first to surface. But when federal agents seized his phone and subpoenaed league records, the magnitude of the investigation became undeniable. What began as quiet murmurs about odd betting patterns has now spiraled into an all-out federal probe targeting some of the most powerful figures in professional basketball. The FBI's reach hasn't stopped with executives. It's swept through team offices, locker rooms, and private residences, with the Los Angeles Lakers directly implicated.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
As indictments stack up against key names like Terry Royer and Shanna Phillips, the once unshakable image of the league's leadership is being dragged into question. Cathy Engelbert, too, is now at the center of scrutiny, as the WNBA's own internal issues, already strained by controversy, are being reevaluated under a much harsher light. See, this isn't a case of rogue actors. It's a systematic breakdown. The line between internal mismanagement and federal obstruction is beginning to blur. When two of the most visible commissioners in sports are implicated in a federal investigation, it's not just about legal liability. It's about the collapse of public confidence. With widespread access to confidential information and the suspicion of game manipulation, the credibility of professional basketball is now on trial. Every new arrest, every property search, raises the stakes of the future of the NBA and WNBA. The leagues aren't simply reacting to scandal. They're trying to survive it. So, the FBI just walked into professional basketball and flipped the entire table. Phones, properties, schedules, all seized. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert under full-blown federal investigation, not internal league stuff. We're talking subpoenas, raids, grand jury-level chaos. And yes, there are already arrests. This isn't just another controversy the league can sweep under the rug with a press release and a heartfelt statement about integrity. The federal government is knee-deep in an explosive criminal probe involving illegal gambling, insider trading, and game manipulation. That's right. The FBI is now in the paint, and the league's entire playbook might be getting shredded in real time. One of the biggest red flags? The Los Angeles Lakers. Multiple staff members in the team have reportedly surrendered their phones voluntarily, which, in this context, might be the legal version of throwing your hands up mid-drill and saying, "Coach, I'm out." This isn't isolated to one rogue player placing shady bets. The feds are circling organizations, multiple teams, and major figures across both leagues. And yes, real names are already in headlines. NBA player Terry Rozier has been indicted. Coach Shanna Phillips, too. These aren't bench warmers. This isn't some fringe scandal. The kind of people who've been arrested are right in the league's core circle. Active contributors, public figures, and role models. So what exactly is going on? The investigation points to a deep-rooted network of illegal gambling, the sharing of insider information, and possibly even rig games. Think about that. Game manipulation. That's the thing fans joke about on Reddit or scream about on Twitter when a ref misses a call. But now it's not speculation, it's evidence. Enough to get the FBI involved. Enough to trigger indictments. Enough to put two of the most powerful people in professional basketball in the hot seat. Adam Silver, the NBA's common collective face of diplomacy. Cathy Engelbert, the WNBA's strategic and stability-focused leader. Both now at the center of a full-blown legal storm. The question isn't just whether they knew. It's whether they failed to act, enabled it, or worse, actively ignored growing warning signs within their leagues. And if you think this is just about a few people placing bets, think again. The scope of the subpoenas includes phone records, property access, travel schedules. Basically, every thread investigators could pull to unravel how deep this web goes. This isn't a standard league investigation with a carefully controlled media cycle. This is a federal government going in with subpoenas, combing through data, and knocking on doors. Teams are reacting in real time. Some are making sudden staffing changes, like the Dallas Wings, who just fired both their head coach and general manager. Coincidence? Highly unlikely. With the scale of this investigation, every move starts to look like damage control. Quiet exits, reassigned duties, sudden mutual decisions to part ways? Yeah, we've seen this script before. And then there's the matter of trust. The leagues have always walked a tightrope between entertainment and integrity. Sure, basketball is a business, but it's one that's built entirely on the belief that what we're watching is fair, competitive, and real. So when the FBI walks in and starts confiscating devices from coaches, players, and executives, that illusion takes a hit. Even those who aren't involved, who've done nothing wrong, are now dealing with a stink of suspicion, because that's how federal investigations work. They're not gentle. They don't do PR. They go wide, they go hard, and they don't care about league politics. If you're in the room, your name might end up in a filing. And the NBA and WNBA, they weren't ready for this. Not even close. Whatever internal compliance mechanisms they had in place clearly weren't built for a scandal of this scale. They're now playing catch-up, issuing statements and pledging cooperation, but the damage is already here. Public trust? Shaken. The credibility of the leagues? On life support. And let's be real, this isn't just a sports story anymore. With Congress already taking interest, this thing is poised to become a full-on political issue. Accountability, transparency, regulation. Words that usually stay in the press conference backdrop are now front and center. There are already whispers about potential oversight, legislative reforms. It's no longer just about cleaning house. It's about rebuilding the entire structure. Think of the ripple effect. Sponsorships, viewership, fan engagement. If the public starts to believe that game outcomes might have been influenced by backdoor deals or illegal bets, that doesn't just hurt ratings. It shatters the core of what sports are supposed to represent. Leagues are now staring down a credibility crisis they can't spin their way out of. If it's proven that insider info was used for betting, or that games were compromised in any way, the fallout could take years to repair. Careers will end. Legacies will burn. And every clean stat, every game-winning shot, every highlight reel from this era will carry a shadow. And again, this isn't speculation. This is already happening. Subpoenas have gone out. People are under arrest. Phones have been seized. These aren't warning signs. This is the fire. The worst part? We still don't know how far this thing goes. The investigation is ongoing. More names could be revealed. More teams could be involved. And depending on what's uncovered, we might see a historic shift in how professional basketball is governed. We're not just talking about a few suspensions or some postseason fines. We're talking about systemic reform, permanent changes to how the league operates. This is the kind of story that makes executives sweat in luxury suites and legal departments run overtime. Because once the feds are involved, it's no longer about brand damage. It's about criminal liability. If Silver or Engelbert are found to have ignored signs, suppressed complaints, or failed to act on known risks, their careers won't just be over. They could be criminally implicated. And honestly, even if they're legally clear, the optics are already brutal. Commissioners are supposed to represent stability, ethics, and trust. When your commissioners are having their phones seized by federal agents, that alone is a crisis, whether they're guilty or not. This is a test not just for Silver and Engelbert, but for the entire professional basketball ecosystem. How do you preserve legitimacy when your leadership is under federal scrutiny? How do you protect the innocent while rooting out corruption that's possibly baked into the system? Fans are watching. Sponsors are watching. Congress is watching. And the people in charge are fumbling in real time, trying to figure out what cooperation looks like when your house is already on fire. This could be the moment that changes everything, from betting policies to data security, compliance monitoring, and beyond. The leagues will need to rebuild from the ground up, because if the scandal proves anything, it's that whatever systems they had in place were nothing but window dressing. The days of vague integrity statements and ongoing investigation PR lines are over. The feds are here, and they brought receipts. So now we wait for the indictments, the press conferences, the leaks, the resignations, and the inevitable fallout. Because one thing is clear, the game has changed. If you're watching this thinking, what did I just hear? Yeah, same. This is unprecedented. And it's just the beginning. So what's your take? Are the leagues going to recover from this? Do you think Silver and Engelbert knew what was happening? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because we're going to be unpacking this for a long time. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any updates. This scandal is only going to get messier, and we'll be right here, following every twist, every cover-up, and every meltdown. All right, so where were we? Oh, right. Watching two of the most powerful people in professional basketball get steamrolled by a federal investigation, while the league scramble to act like this is all under control. Let's be clear, it's not. Because when the FBI is raiding properties and collecting phones, this isn't just under review. It's an active crime scene. And everyone from the front office to the locker room is now looking over their shoulder, wondering who's next. And here's the wild part. This didn't come out of nowhere. There have been whispers for years. Suspicious betting lines. Questionable last-minute plays. Ref calls that left everyone confused but somehow made sense to Vegas. Fans have joked about rigged games for decades. But now, the joke's gone quiet. Because if the federal government has evidence, not rumors, not speculation, but actual evidence, that people were placing illegal bets with insider info or throwing games. That's the darkest timeline. Let's talk about stakes. For Adam Silver, this is legacy-shattering. The guy who ushered in the modern NBA era. The one who was hailed as progressive, open-minded, responsive. He handled Donald Sterling. He welcomed sports betting into the NBA ecosystem. But now, the leagues are drowning in allegations that betting wasn't just allowed. It was exploited. There's a big difference between making a league gambling-friendly and letting coaches and players place bets using internal data. And if Silver failed to draw that line clearly, he's not just a failed leader. He's the architect of the mess. And then there's Cathy Engelbert. She was brought in to give the WNBA credibility, business chops, stability. But her league's had its own storm of controversy lately. Officiating complaints, weird playoff structures, and now, possible federal crimes? If Engelbert didn't see this coming, or worse, saw it and did nothing, her time at the top might be over. We're not talking about PR scandals or policy debates. We're talking about whether or not the leadership of both leagues is criminally negligent. And fans? They're livid. Rightfully so. This isn't just about sports. It's about betrayal. People spend their lives following teams. They buy jerseys. They defend their favorite players on social media, like it's life or death. They plan entire evenings around games. And now there's a real chance some of those games were rigged. That's not just disappointing, it's insulting. Think about the players who didn't cheat. The ones grinding for a 10-day contract. The rookies trying to prove themselves. The veterans staying clean because they care about the game. All of them now lumped in with a criminal investigation because someone higher up decided the rules didn't apply. It gets worse. Because even if you're innocent, once your name is dragged through a federal probe, that stain doesn't wash off easily. Sponsors pull out. Endorsements disappear. Your Wikipedia page gets a permanent controversies section. Careers die in silence, long before a verdict ever drops. Let's talk about the Lakers again, because that team keeps popping up. Staff from the Lakers handed over their phones voluntarily. That tells us two things. One, the FBI made it clear that resistance wasn't an option. And two, whatever they're looking for isn't abstract. It's in the messages, the call logs, the screenshots, the receipts. Why the Lakers? That's the real question. Is it because they're high profile? Because they were sloppy? Or because someone flipped and gave the feds a starting point? We don't know yet. But if the Lakers are involved, even peripherally, the media storm won't stop at a few headlines. The NBA has always prided itself on being player first. But when active players like Terry Rozier are being indicted, it's hard to spin that into a growth opportunity. The indictment of a current player tells us that this investigation isn't theoretical. It's active, specific, and far along. And Shanta Phillips, a coach, has been indicted too, which raises all sorts of new concerns. Coaches have access to lineups, medical updates, travel fatigue, game plans. If a coach is feeding information to gamblers or placing bets themselves, that undermines every decision made on the court. It's game fixing by proximity. You don't even need a player to throw the ball. You just need the right person to leak when someone's sitting out with a sore ankle. And speaking of leaks, let's not pretend this stops at betting. Insider trading isn't just for Wall Street. If someone is profiting from confidential, non-public information, that's a serious crime. And if these leagues weren't enforcing data controls, it means someone could have been using injury reports, practice notes, or matchup rotations to cash out on bets before anyone else even knew. And now the government's involved because the leagues didn't catch it first. That's the most damning part. With all the resources, technology, and compliance department available, somehow the FBI was the first to say, hey, something here doesn't smell right. If you're wondering how far this could go, well, let's just say that Congress is watching too. Legislative oversight isn't a cute formality. When Congress steps in, it means they believe the institutions themselves have failed, that the leagues weren't capable of self-policing, that accountability isn't a press conference. It's subpoenas and hearings and the possibility of new laws dictating how sports leagues operate. And let's not forget, we're in the middle of a sports betting boom. The NBA was one of the first to jump into that world, hoping to cash in. But if it turns out that the explosion of legal betting made it easier for insiders to cheat the system, you can bet that lawmakers will be all over it. Regulation, enforcement, audits, permanent oversight. It's all on the table now. And fans? They deserve better than this. They deserve to know the games they're watching aren't tainted, that the stars they follow aren't criminals, that the commissioners making millions in salary are actually protecting the sport, not looking the other way. So what happens now? Well, if this follows a pattern of every other major scandal, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. More names will leak. More indictments will follow. There will be denials, legal statements, and no comment at this time responses from every PR team within 500 miles of a basketball court. We'll probably see resignations, stepping down to focus on family, or, to allow the league to move forward, statements, the usual euphemisms. But behind the scenes, panic, investigations, legal teams working overtime, contract being reviewed, phone calls being deleted, or at least attempted. And for the rest of us, we'll be watching to see who gets exposed, who gets thrown under the bus, who tries to spin the story into redemption, and who disappears quietly, hoping the news cycle moves on. But let's be clear, the fans won't forget this. Not this time. The trust that was broken here is different. This wasn't a bad call or a post-game fight. This was a systemic, high-level breach of everything the league pretended to stand for. Integrity, competition, fairness. It was all just branding until the FBI showed up with subpoenas. So, yeah, the NBA and WNBA just hit their lowest moment, not because of one person, but because the system let it happen. The only question now is whether they'll actually fix it or just try to outlast the headlines. And here's the thing no one's saying out loud yet, but everyone's thinking it. This could be the biggest scandal in modern sports history. Forget Deflategate. Forget Spygate. Forget that time MLB pretended steroids weren't a problem until literally everyone looked like a cartoon character. This is different because when federal law enforcement gets involved with not just one player or coach, but with entire teams, commissioners, and the very structure of how the league operates, that's not a scandal. That's a systemic collapse. And what makes it even more surreal is how fast the house of cards is falling. One day it's business as usual, games, interviews, flashy promos. The next, you've got FBI agents walking into team facilities like they're checking into a hotel, collecting devices and files while staff try not to lose it in front of media. The power dynamic has completely shifted. The NBA and WNBA aren't in control of the narrative anymore. The feds are. And trust, they don't care about the playoffs. They're not worried about media deals or jersey sales. They're focused on evidence. And when they seize your phone, they already have a pretty good idea what they're going to find. Think about how much of your life lives in your phone. Now imagine being someone in one of these leagues, an agent, a coach, a player, and knowing the FBI is reading every text, every call log, every deleted message. You'd start sweating real fast. And if you're clean, you're still worried because guilt by association spreads like wildfire in situations like this. You once shared a group chat with someone under investigation. Now you're being questioned. You replied LOL to a suspicious joke 2 years ago. That's evidence now. Even if it's nothing, it feels like this is the dark side of an industry that's ballooned into a billion-dollar spectacle. The NBA and WNBA wanted the revenue, the sponsorships, the betting partnerships. But what they forgot to do was build a fence around it. No safeguards. No meaningful deterrence. Just a wide-open field, ripe for exploitation. And now, people are shocked that it got exploited? Of course this happened. It was inevitable. When you mix insider access, massive money, and a lack of oversight, you don't get competition, you get corruption. And now the leagues are trying to rewind the tape. Too late. Let's not pretend Adam Silver and Cathy Engelbert can just issue a joint statement, promise transparency, and move on. That ship has sailed. If they didn't know about the misconduct, that's negligence. If they did know and fail to act, that's complicity. Either way, the outcome is the same. Public trust implodes. And here's the kicker. The real damage might not even be visible yet. What if more arrests are coming? What if more teams are involved? What if game results were manipulated? That opens the door to lawsuits, class actions, broadcasters demanding refunds, and a fan base that may never look at the game the same way again. We're standing at a breaking point. The leagues can't patch this up with new guidelines or a couple of firings. They need a full structural reset, independent audits, clear rules around betting, actual punishment with teeth, and probably new leadership. Because whether or not Silver and Engelbert end up indicted, the public perception is cooked. See, this scandal isn't just about what happened behind the scenes. It's about what it means. If fans can't believe in the fairness of the game, the entire product collapses. It's not just a bad season. It's an existential threat. Because without trust, the jerseys, the stats, the trophies, they're just costumes in a very expensive play. Let us know what you think in the comments. Is this the beginning of a total overhaul? Should the league be turned upside down? And how do you feel knowing your favorite team might have been part of something bigger than just basketball? Like the video if you're as stunned as we are. Share it with anyone who's still in denial. And don't forget to subscribe, because trust us, this story isn't going away. And neither are we.